Cold Hands and Feet, Understanding the Modern Body and Mind. Hello, dear listeners. The story I want to share with you today probably begins with a small symptom that many of you experience in daily life, but often dismiss as insignificant. That is cold hands and feet syndrome, or the symptom of cold extremities. Are your fingertips or toes feeling particularly cold at this very moment? Many people simply think of this as their natural constitution, or dismiss it as being due to cold weather. However, what we will explore together today is a much deeper and more complex story of our body and mind, hidden within these small signals. Cold hands and feet is not merely a problem of blood circulation. It is part of a very sophisticated biological signaling system that reflects our modern lifestyle, stress patterns, eating habits, and even our emotional state. Like warning lights on a car's dashboard, the coldness at our body's extremities may be a signal that some change or burden has occurred in our body's homeostatic maintenance system. Modern medicine explains this as reduced blood flow in peripheral vessels, or an imbalance in the autonomic nervous system. But if we delve a little deeper here, we discover much more interesting stories about why these physiological changes occur and what meaning they have for our overall health and quality of life. Adding a slightly cynical perspective here, modern society constantly demands us to be faster, more efficiently, yet teaches us to ignore the most basic signals our body sends. When hands and feet are cold, they say to wear gloves or socks, or stick on hot packs to solve it. It's like thinking that removing the bulb when a car's engine overheating warning light comes on solves the problem. But what we will examine together today is not such a stopgap solution. Through the small window of cold hands and feet, we will pursue a comprehensive understanding of how our body's complex and sophisticated systems are connected, and how we can live healthier and more balanced lives through this understanding. In the journey ahead, we will explore, in order, from the physiological mechanisms of blood circulation to the mysterious operating principles of the autonomic nervous system, the sophisticated interactions of hormones, and the effects of modern lifestyle on all these systems. We will also examine the amazing effects of stress and emotions on our temperature regulation, the roles of food, exercise, and sleep, and finally, practical solutions that can be actually applied to our lives by integrating all of these. Through this journey, I hope you will not only learn how to solve cold hands and feet, but deeply understand how intricately our body and mind are connected, and how small changes can create great transformations. Chapter 1: The Philosophy of Blood Circulation. Understanding blood circulation is like grasping the traffic system of a huge city. Blood starting from the central pump station called the heart spreads throughout the body, through the highway called the aorta, passes through increasingly smaller roads, and finally reaches the alleyways called capillaries. Then it endlessly repeats the cycle of returning to the heart, through the return routes called veins. The most interesting point in this system is the principle of priority. Our body prioritizes ensuring blood supply to organs essential for survival: the brain, heart, kidneys, liver, etc. If necessary, it doesn't hesitate to reduce blood supply to peripheral areas like hands and feet. From an evolutionary perspective, this is a very rational strategy. To survive in cold environments, maintaining the function of core organs is much more important than maintaining the temperature of fingers or toes. But here's where the problem begins. Even though modern people are not actually exposed to life-threatening cold, their bodies react as if they are in a survival crisis situation due to chronic stress, inappropriate posture, lack of exercise, nutritional imbalance, etc. At this time, our body's vascular system switches to emergency mode, contracting peripheral blood vessels and concentrating blood centrally. The contraction and relaxation of blood vessels are controlled by special muscle tissue called vascular smooth muscle. These muscles are involuntary muscles that are not under our conscious control and are governed by the autonomic nervous system. When the sympathetic nervous system is activated, blood vessels contract, blood pressure rises, and peripheral blood flow decreases. Conversely, when the parasympathetic nervous system predominates, blood vessels relax and blood flow improves. Adding a slightly cynical perspective here, modern society drives us into a state of constant sympathetic nervous system activation. From checking smartphones as soon as we open our eyes in the morning, to checking work emails on the subway, suffering from continuous meetings and work at the office, and being exposed to stimulating information through various SNS and news, even after returning home. This lifestyle pattern keeps our vascular system in a chronic state of contraction. The components of blood also play important roles in circulation. Red blood cells carry oxygen. White blood cells are responsible for immune function. Platelets perform hemostatic action, and plasma serves as a medium for transporting all these components. Blood viscosity, or stickiness, also affects circulation. When dehydrated or when blood sugar is high, blood becomes sticky, making circulation less smooth. From a temperature regulation perspective, blood circulation is like our body's central heating system. Heat generated in the liver and heat produced in muscles are delivered throughout the body through blood. However, when peripheral blood vessels contract, this warm blood cannot reach hands and feet sufficiently, causing cold hands and feet. Interestingly, blood circulation is not just a physical phenomenon. According to recent studies, there is a very close relationship between emotional state and blood circulation. Anxiety or depression cause vasoconstriction, while joy or tranquility promote vasodilation. This suggests that the expression warm heart is not just a metaphor. Blood circulation is also directly connected to our cognitive function. When cerebral blood flow decreases, concentration drops and memory deteriorates. Brain fog, experienced by many modern people, may also be related to such circulatory disorders. The most basic way to improve blood circulation is appropriate exercise. Aerobic exercise in particular increases heart rate, strengthening blood pumping, and improving vascular elasticity. Strength training also helps improve venous blood flow through muscle pump action. Water intake is also very important. Since about 55% of blood is composed of water, adequate water intake is essential for maintaining appropriate blood viscosity. However, what to note here is that electrolyte-balanced water intake is more effective than simply drinking a lot of water. Heat therapy also helps improve blood circulation. Soaking hands and feet in warm water or applying heat induces vasodilation to increase blood flow. However, this is only a temporary effect and is not a fundamental solution. Thinking about the philosophical meaning of blood circulation, it resembles the circulation in our lives. Healthy circulation means appropriate flow and balance. It requires continuous movement that is neither too fast nor too slow and doesn't stagnate anywhere. This is a principle that applies equally to our daily life, human relationships, and emotional management. Chapter 2: Secrets of the Autonomic Nervous System. The autonomic nervous system is the invisible conductor of our body. Without our awareness, it controls all functions essential for maintaining life 24 hours a day: heartbeat, breathing, digestion, temperature regulation, blood pressure control, etc. To understand cold hands and feet, it is essential to deeply understand the operating principles of this autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is largely divided into the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. These two function like the accelerator and brake of a car, performing opposite functions while maintaining our body's homeostasis through exquisite balance. The sympathetic nervous system is responsible for the fight or flight response. arousing our body in crisis situations and preparing it for activity. Conversely, the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for rest and digest functions, relaxing the body and promoting recovery processes. When the sympathetic nervous system is activated, the following changes occur: increased heart rate, elevated blood pressure, bronchial dilation, pupil dilation, suppressed digestive function, and peripheral vasoconstriction that we need to pay attention to. These responses were very useful in primitive times. When encountering a predator, to quickly run away or fight, it was necessary to maximize blood flow to muscles, and it was okay to reduce blood flow to peripheral areas like hands and feet. However, in modern society, this system is actually harming us. Although there are virtually no actual life-threatening dangers, our sympathetic nervous system is in a chronically overactivated state due to work stress, interpersonal conflicts, economic pressure, information overload, etc. This causes continuous peripheral vasoconstriction, becoming a major cause of cold hands and feet. Autonomic nervous system control is performed in various parts of the brainstem. The hypothalamus in particular serves as the supreme control center of the autonomic nervous system, comprehensively managing body temperature, blood pressure, heart rate, hormone secretion, etc. The hypothalamus is also closely connected to the limbic system that processes emotions. So our emotional state directly affects autonomic nervous system activity. What plays an important role in stress response is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. When stress is detected, corticotropin-releasing hormone is secreted from the hypothalamus, which stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete adrenocorticotropic hormone. Finally, cortisol, a stress hormone, is secreted from the adrenal glands, affecting the entire body. Acute stress helps survival, but chronic stress causes various health problems. Continuous cortisol secretion deteriorates immune function, increases blood sugar, and constricts blood vessels. It also damages the hippocampus region of the brain, deteriorating memory and learning ability. One method of measuring autonomic nervous system balance is heart rate variability analysis. A healthy person's heartbeat is not completely regular, but shows minute fluctuations, and the greater this variability, the better balanced the autonomic nervous system is considered to be. When stress or fatigue accumulates, this variability decreases. Breathing is almost the only way to consciously control the autonomic nervous system. Deep, slow breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, relaxing blood vessels and lowering blood pressure. Breathing methods, where exhalation is longer than inhalation, are particularly effective for parasympathetic nervous system activation by stimulating the vagus nerve. Sleep also plays a key role in autonomic nervous system regulation. During sleep, the parasympathetic nervous system predominates, enabling body recovery and regeneration. Sleep deprivation or poor sleep quality causes autonomic nervous system imbalance, which can worsen cold hands and feet. Exercise has dual effects on the autonomic nervous system. During exercise, the sympathetic nervous system is activated, but regular exercise long-term improves parasympathetic nervous system function and increases stress resistance. Low-intensity exercises like yoga, or Tai Chi in particular, have the effect of directly activating the parasympathetic nervous system. Nutritional status also affects the autonomic nervous system. The balance of electrolytes like magnesium, calcium, and potassium is important, and omega-3 fatty acids play a role in enhancing nervous system stability. Conversely, excessive intake of caffeine or sugar can overstimulate the sympathetic nervous system. What has been receiving attention recently is the role of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve extending from the brain to the abdomen and is a major component of the parasympathetic nervous system. The better the vagus nerve function, the higher the stress recovery capacity, the better inflammation response control, and the better overall health condition. Methods to stimulate the vagus nerve include washing face with cold water, singing, laughing, meditation, deep breathing, etc. All these activities activate the parasympathetic nervous system, helping with vascular relaxation and blood flow improvement. From the autonomic nervous system perspective, cold hands and feet is not simply a blood circulation problem, but an indicator reflecting our body's overall balanced state. Therefore, for fundamental resolution, stress management, and autonomic nervous system balance recovery across all aspects of life are necessary. Chapter 3. The Orchestra of Hormones. Hormones are our body's chemical messengers. They circulate throughout the body via blood, delivering precise instructions to each organ and cell, and intricately coordinating complex physiological processes. Understanding the interactions of hormones related to cold hands and feet is like appreciating the concerto of a giant orchestra. The first hormone to pay attention to is thyroid hormone. Thyroxine, T4, and triiodothyronine, T3, secreted by the thyroid gland, are key hormones that regulate our body's basal metabolic rate. They play an essential role in maintaining body temperature by promoting ATP production in cellular mitochondria. When thyroid function decreases, the basal metabolic rate drops, body temperature decreases, and especially the temperature of peripheral areas decreases significantly. The symptoms of hypothyroidism are very closely related to cold hands and feet. Excessive sensitivity to cold, fatigue, weight gain, constipation, depression, decreased concentration, etc. Interestingly, subclinical hypothyroidism, where blood tests are in the normal range but thyroid function is actually not optimal, is very common in modern society. Adding a slightly cynical perspective here, modern medicine tends to judge there's no problem if hormone levels are within the normal range. However, this normal range is based on statistical averages and may differ from an individual's optimal state. Also, considering modern people's stress levels and environmental factors, past standards may not be sufficient. Sex hormones also play important roles in temperature regulation. Estrogen has a vasodilating effect that improves blood flow, and many women experience worsening cold hands and feet when estrogen levels decrease during menopause. Progesterone has a body temperature raising effect, so hormonal changes according to the menstrual cycle can affect women's temperature sensation. In men, testosterone affects muscle mass and basal metabolic rate, helping maintain body temperature. As testosterone levels decrease with age, muscle mass decreases, which can lead to reduced heat production capacity. The insulin and blood sugar control system is also closely related to blood circulation. When high blood sugar persists, blood vessel walls are damaged and blood viscosity increases, making circulation less smooth. Insulin resistance also deteriorates vascular endothelial function, reducing the vessel's ability to dilate. Frequent blood sugar spikes and insulin secretion in modern diets can have long-term adverse effects on vascular health. Cortisol is well known as a stress hormone, but it also has complex effects on temperature regulation. In acute stress situations, cortisol constricts blood vessels to concentrate blood flow to core organs. However, when cortisol levels are chronically high, it damages blood vessel walls, increases inflammation, and raises blood pressure, deteriorating overall circulatory function. Adrenaline and noradrenaline are neurotransmitters of the sympathetic nervous system and also hormones secreted by the adrenal glands. They show immediate vasoconstricting effects and particularly strongly affect peripheral blood vessels. In chronic stress or anxiety states, secretion of these hormones continuously increases, potentially causing cold hands and feet. Growth hormone is mainly secreted during sleep and is responsible for tissue regeneration and recovery. Growth hormone also maintains vascular endothelial cell health and promotes new blood vessel formation. When growth hormone secretion decreases due to sleep deprivation or stress, vascular health can deteriorate. Melatonin is known as a sleep-regulating hormone, but recent research has revealed it also has powerful antioxidant effects and vascular protective effects. Melatonin protects vascular endothelial cells from damage and helps maintain vascular elasticity. Vitamin D is, strictly speaking, more like a hormone. Vitamin D deficiency is a very common problem among modern people, which affects not only immune function deterioration, but also vascular function. Vitamin D plays a role in improving vascular endothelial cell function and reducing inflammation. The interactions between hormones are very complex. For example, cortisol can suppress thyroid hormone activity, increase insulin resistance, and decrease sex hormone production. Due to these interactions, one hormone imbalance causes cascading effects on several other hormones. Methods for improving hormone balance include: adequate sleep is essential for growth hormone and melatonin secretion. Sleep between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. is particularly the most important time for hormone secretion. Appropriate exercise improves insulin sensitivity, promotes growth hormone secretion, and reduces stress hormones. However, excessive exercise can actually increase cortisol secretion, so maintaining appropriate intensity and frequency is important. In nutritional management, omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium, zinc, vitamin D, etc. play important roles in hormone synthesis and function. Cholesterol in particular is a raw material for many hormones, so extreme low-fat diets can cause hormone imbalances. Stress management is the core of hormone balance. Relaxation techniques like meditation, yoga, and deep breathing help lower cortisol levels and improve overall hormone balance. From a hormonal perspective, cold hands and feet is a signal that our body's chemical balance is disrupted. To resolve this, rather than simply relying on external thermal therapy, it's necessary to restore the balance of the entire hormone system. Chapter 4: Modern Lifestyle and the Crisis of Temperature Regulation. The lifestyle of modern people living in the 21st century is unlike any other time in human history. We live in an environment completely removed from the natural living rhythms that our ancestors adapted to over hundreds of thousands of years. This rapid change poses serious challenges to our body's basic physiological functions, especially the temperature regulation system. The most fundamental change is the dramatic decrease in physical activity. Humans in the hunter-gatherer era walked 10 to 15 kilometers per day, and even in the agricultural era, considerable physical activity was required. However, modern people spend all day sitting in chairs, staring at computer screens. This sedentary lifestyle causes muscle mass reduction, decreased basal metabolic rate, and blood circulation disorders, becoming a direct cause of cold hands and feet. Muscle is our body's largest heat-producing organ. When muscle mass decreases, the basal metabolic rate drops, reducing body temperature maintenance capacity. Also, muscle contraction and relaxation serve as pumps that help circulate blood and lymphatic fluid. But prolonged sitting greatly deteriorates this muscle pump function. Adding a slightly cynical perspective here, modern society is taking away our movement in the name of convenience. Elevators, escalators, cars, delivery services, everything is designed for us to consume minimal energy. At the same time, the gym and diet industries are flourishing, so could there be a more ironic situation? Changes in indoor environments are also important factors. Modern people spend most of their time indoors with artificially controlled temperatures. Living in environments kept cool with air conditioning in summer and warm with heating in winter, our body's natural temperature regulation ability is deteriorating. The temperature regulation system needs appropriate stimulation to function properly, but in overly protected environments, This adaptive ability weakens. Also, most modern buildings have sealed structures with insufficient natural ventilation. This deteriorates indoor air quality, decreases oxygen concentration, and increases concentrations of carbon dioxide and various chemicals. Such environments reduce blood's oxygen carrying capacity and adversely affect overall circulatory function. Changes in eating habits also significantly affect temperature regulation. Modern diets often contain many processed foods, refined carbohydrates, trans fats, and artificial additives, while lacking fresh vegetables and fruits and quality protein. Such eating habits increase inflammation, make blood sugar control difficult, and impair vascular health. Particularly noteworthy is the excessive consumption of cold food and drinks. Modern eating habits of consuming ice cream, cold drinks, and cold salads, regardless of season, can lower stomach temperature, deteriorate digestive function, and decrease overall body temperature. Traditional medicine sometimes explains this as internal coldness due to excessive consumption of cold-natured foods. Changes in sleep patterns are also serious problems. Before the invention of electricity, people maintained natural circadian rhythms of sleeping when the sun set and waking when the sun rose. However, modern people are exposed to artificial lighting, especially blue light from LED screens, late into the night, suppressing melatonin secretion and deteriorating sleep quality. Sleep deprivation decreases growth hormone and melatonin secretion and increases cortisol levels, impairing overall metabolic and circulatory functions. The use of smartphones and digital devices is also a factor that cannot be overlooked. Staring at small screens for an average of 5 to 8 hours a day causes the neck and shoulders to bend forward. This posture tenses the muscles around the neck and shoulders and interferes with upper body blood circulation, potentially causing upper extremity coldness. Modern stress patterns are also completely different from the past. Past stress was mostly acute and specific. People temporarily experienced stress when encountering predators, natural disasters, or wars, and regained peace once the danger passed. However, modern stress is chronic and abstract. We are exposed to continuous low-intensity stress 24 hours a day due to work pressure, economic anxiety, complex human relationships, information overload, etc. This chronic stress continuously activates the sympathetic nervous system, causing vasoconstriction and increasing cortisol secretion, deteriorating overall metabolic function. Stress also rapidly consumes nutrients like magnesium, B vitamins, and vitamin C, causing nutritional imbalances. Exposure to environmental toxins is also an important issue. We are daily exposed to numerous toxic substances that our ancestors never experienced. Air pollution, heavy metals, endocrine disruptors from plastics, pesticides, chemical detergents, etc. These toxins increase the liver's detoxification burden, damage vascular endothelial cells, and disrupt hormone function, adversely affecting overall health. Also, modern society's hurry culture is problematic. The culture that demands everything be processed quickly and requires immediate results ignores our body's natural rhythms. Lifestyle patterns of eating hastily, moving hastily, and deciding hastily deteriorate digestive function and disrupt autonomic nervous system balance. To solve these problems of modern lifestyle, conscious effort is needed. We need to restore our body's natural rhythms through regular exercise, contact with nature, healthy eating habits, adequate sleep, stress management, digital detox, etc. However, there are limits to individual effort alone. Society as a whole needs to create environments and cultures that consider human biological characteristics. This is an essential task for humanity's sustainable development beyond simple health issues. Chapter 5. The cold reality created by stress and tension. In modern society, stress has become an unavoidable reality. However, many people don't properly recognize the close relationship between stress and cold hands and feet. The effects of stress on our body go beyond simply psychological dimensions to cause very specific and physical changes. To understand the physiological mechanisms of stress response, we must first accurately understand what stress is. Stress is a physiological and psychological response that occurs from imbalance between environmental demands and an individual's coping ability. This was originally an adaptive mechanism for survival, but in modern society, it has become a factor that harms health. When stress is detected, the brain's amygdala responds first. The amygdala is the center for processing emotions and immediately sends signals to the hypothalamus when danger is detected. The hypothalamus is the control center for the autonomic nervous system and endocrine system, activating the sympathetic nervous system and instructing the adrenal glands to secrete stress hormones. In acute stress response, adrenaline and noradrenaline are immediately secreted to increase heart rate, raise blood pressure, and dilate bronchi. Simultaneously, peripheral blood vessels contract to concentrate blood flow to core organs. This response is very useful in fight or flight situations, but it's an inappropriate response for most stress situations that modern people experience. In chronic stress, cortisol, a stress hormone, is continuously secreted. Cortisol increases blood sugar, suppresses immune function, and increases inflammatory response. It also damages blood vessel walls and increases blood viscosity, deteriorating circulatory function. All these changes are factors that worsen cold hands and feet. Adding a slightly cynical perspective here, modern society constantly stresses us while advising us to think positively and don't be stressed. However, it doesn't try to improve the fundamental causes of stress: competitive social structures, unstable employment environments, information overload, etc. This is like selling antidotes while feeding poison. Different types of stress cause different responses in our body. There are physical stress, like cold, heat, noise. Chemical stress, like toxins, drugs, nutritional deficiency. Biological stress, like infection, disease, and psychological stress, like anxiety, depression, anger. Each affects temperature regulation through different pathways. Psychological stress, particularly common among modern people, shows very complex patterns. Work stress, interpersonal conflicts, economic pressure, anxiety about the future, etc. work together to create chronic tension. In this state, muscles are continuously tense, interfering with blood circulation, and the autonomic nervous system becomes imbalanced, continuing peripheral vasoconstriction. The relationship between muscle tension and cold hands and feet is particularly important. When stressed, muscles in the neck, shoulders, and back unconsciously contract. This muscle tension compresses blood vessels in those areas, reducing blood flow to the upper extremities. Also, tense muscles require more oxygen and nutrients, so peripheral blood flow can become relatively insufficient. Changes in breathing patterns are also important factors. When stressed, breathing becomes shallow and fast. This thoracic breathing further activates the sympathetic nervous system and can cause vasoconstriction by decreasing blood carbon dioxide concentration. Conversely, deep, slow abdominal breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, helping with vascular relaxation and blood flow improvement. Stress also affects our behavior patterns. When stressed, we neglect exercise, have irregular meals, and sleep quality deteriorates. All these behavioral changes are factors that deteriorate temperature regulation ability. Looking specifically at stress factors in modern society, workplace stress appears as excessive workload, unreasonable deadlines, conflicts with bosses or colleagues, promotion pressure, job insecurity, etc. This stress lasts more than 8 hours a day, and worries about work often continue even after returning home. Relationship stress appears as family conflicts, problems with friends, conflicts with romantic partners, etc., especially with the development of SNS. Relationships continue 24 hours, and even online interactions have become sources of stress. Economic stress appears as living cost burden, housing problems, children's education costs, retirement preparation, etc. Economic instability tends to amplify stress in all other areas. Information overload is also an important cause of modern stress. The brain is continuously stimulated, trying to process information, pouring through smartphones, internet, and SNS. Especially excessive exposure to negative news or stimulating content increases stress hormone secretion. The key to stress management is not completely eliminating stress factors, but controlling our body's response to stress. This requires various approaches. Meditation and mindfulness are among the most effective methods for controlling stress response. Regular meditation reduces amygdala activity and improves prefrontal cortex function, improving cognitive response to stress. Exercise metabolizes stress hormones and promotes secretion of mood-enhancing neurotransmitters like endorphins. Aerobic exercise in particular improves blood circulation, directly helping relieve cold hands and feet. Building social support systems is also important. Positive relationships with family, friends, and colleagues buffer stress and increase resilience in stressful situations. Unnecessary stress can be reduced through time management and priority setting. Relaxing perfectionist tendencies and setting realistic goals also helps. Ultimately, understanding the relationship between stress and cold hands and feet means deeply recognizing the connection between mind and body. Cold hands and feet are not simply physical symptoms, but signals of our emotional state and lifestyle expressed through the body. Chapter 6. The warm messages. Food conveys to the body. Food carries meaning beyond simply satisfying hunger. Every food we consume contains chemical information and energy that directly affects our body's temperature, energy production, and blood circulation. To improve cold hands and feet, it's necessary to deeply understand and utilize these essential characteristics of food. Traditionally, both Eastern and Western medical systems have classified food properties into warming and cooling natures. This classification is based not simply on food temperature, but on the physiological effects they have on our body when consumed. Modern nutrition is beginning to scientifically explain this traditional wisdom. Warming foods mainly promote the body's metabolism, improve blood circulation, and have effects of raising body temperature. Spices like ginger, garlic, cinnamon, chili, and onion are representative examples. These foods contain bioactive substances like capsaicin, gingerol, and cinnamaldehyde that directly act on vascular dilation and blood flow improvement. In the case of ginger, components called gingerol and shogal promote nitric oxide production in vascular endothelial cells, inducing vasodilation. They also inhibit platelet aggregation to improve blood flow and reduce inflammatory response. Cinnamaldehyde contained in cinnamon improves insulin sensitivity to help blood sugar control, which indirectly has positive effects on vascular health. The quality and consumption method of carbohydrates also significantly affect temperature regulation. Refined carbohydrates and sugar cause rapid blood sugar elevation and insulin secretion, adversely affecting vascular function. Conversely, complex carbohydrates like brown rice, oats, and sweet potatoes provide stable energy supply, along with nutrients that help maintain body temperature. Protein intake is also very important. Protein is a component of muscle, and muscle mass is directly related to basal metabolic rate. Also, the thermal effect occurring during protein metabolism helps raise body temperature. Quality protein sources include eggs, fish, chicken, and legumes. The type and quality of fats also greatly affect blood circulation. Fish, nuts, and flax seeds, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, improve vascular endothelial function and reduce inflammation. Conversely, trans fats and excessive saturated fats deposit on blood vessel walls, promoting arteriosclerosis and interfering with blood circulation. Among minerals, iron, magnesium, and zinc are particularly important. Iron deficiency causes anemia, reducing oxygen carrying capacity, which directly causes cold hands and feet. Magnesium is essential for vascular relaxation, and zinc plays an important role in vascular endothelial cell health. Among vitamins, vitamins C, E, and B complex are closely related to blood circulation. Vitamin C is needed for collagen synthesis to maintain blood vessel wall elasticity, and vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant that protects blood vessels. B vitamins, especially B1, B6, and B12, play important roles in nerve function and energy metabolism. The importance of water intake must also be emphasized. Since 55% of blood is composed of water, adequate water intake is essential for controlling blood viscosity and improving circulation. However, electrolyte-balanced water intake is more effective than simply drinking lots of water. Excessive consumption of cold food and drinks can worsen cold hands and feet. Especially drinking cold beverages on an empty stomach or drinking ice water during meals can lower stomach temperature, deteriorate digestive function, and decrease overall body temperature. Conversely, warm food and drinks directly help raise body temperature. Especially drinking warm ginger tea or cinnamon tea in the morning warms the start of the day and has effects of activating metabolism. Meal timing and patterns are also important. Irregular meals cause blood sugar fluctuations and can disrupt autonomic nervous system balance. Maintaining regular meal times, avoiding overeating, and chewing thoroughly help digestive function and overall metabolic function. Besides ingredients, meal preparation and cooking methods are also important. It's good to use fresh ingredients when possible, avoid excessive processing, and choose healthy cooking methods like steaming, boiling, and grilling. Also, the process of preparing and cooking meals itself can help with mental stability and stress relief. Ultimately, improving cold hands and feet through food is not simply about consuming specific foods, but starts with an attitude of deeply understanding and respecting the relationship between food and our body. When we properly receive the warm messages that food conveys to us, our body will respond with corresponding warmth. Chapter 7. Exercise and the physiological mechanisms of circulation. Exercise is an activity that realizes the original purpose for which the human body was designed. Our cardiovascular, muscular, and nervous systems are all optimized based on movement, and appropriate exercise helps these systems work harmoniously. To understand exercise from the perspective of improving cold hands and feet, we need to examine the multi-layered and complex effects exercise has on our body. The most immediate effect of exercise is increased heart rate and cardiac output. When we start exercising, muscles require more oxygen and nutrients, and in response, the heart begins to beat faster and stronger. In this process, blood circulation is activated throughout the body, and sufficient blood is supplied even to peripheral areas where blood flow was previously insufficient. During exercise, repeated muscle contraction and relaxation create a muscle pump effect. The calf muscle in particular is called the second heart because of its important role in blood circulation. When the calf muscle contracts, valves in the veins open, pushing blood toward the heart, and when it relaxes, the valves close to prevent backflow. This mechanism greatly improves lower extremity blood circulation. Adding a slightly cynical perspective here. Modern society emphasizes the necessity of exercise while not properly providing environments where we can exercise. Most people work sitting all day. Car-centered transportation systems, building designs that prioritize elevators over stairs are examples. Meanwhile, they tell us to buy expensive gym memberships or exercise equipment. Could there be a more contradictory situation? Different types of exercise have different effects on our body. Aerobic exercise has excellent effects on improving cardiopulmonary function and overall blood circulation. Regular aerobic exercise like walking, jogging, swimming, and cycling strengthens heart pump function, increases vascular elasticity, and increases capillary density. Strength training has the effect of increasing muscle mass to raise basal metabolic rate. When muscle mass increases, more energy is consumed even at rest, helping maintain body temperature. Strength training also increases bone density, enhances joint stability, and improves posture. Stretching and flexibility exercises improve blood circulation by increasing flexibility of muscles and connective tissues. Stretching of the neck, shoulders, and upper body is particularly effective for improving blood flow to the upper extremities. Exercises like yoga or tai chi include breathing, meditation, and balance training along with stretching, also having effects of improving autonomic nervous system balance. The effect of exercise on the autonomic nervous system is also very important. Regular exercise improves parasympathetic nervous system function and increases stress resistance. After exercise, neurotransmitters like endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine are secreted, improving mood and reducing stress. These effects lead to vascular relaxation and blood pressure reduction, improving overall circulatory function. Exercise timing is also an important consideration. Morning exercise energizes the start of the day and has effects of activating metabolism. Evening exercise helps relieve daily stress and improve sleep quality. However, vigorous exercise right before sleep can actually interfere with sleep, so caution is needed. Controlling exercise intensity is also important. Too vigorous exercise can actually increase stress hormone secretion and temporarily deteriorate immune function. Appropriate exercise intensity should be determined considering individual fitness level, health condition, age, etc. Generally, exercising at 60 to 80% of maximum heart rate is effective. And there are things you must know. There are also precautions when starting exercise. People who haven't exercised for a long time risk injury if they suddenly start vigorous exercise. Therefore, it's important to start at low intensity and gradually increase intensity and duration. Also, individual health conditions must be considered. Those with chronic diseases like cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes should consult with doctors to receive appropriate exercise prescriptions for safety. Exercise consistency is also important. Exercising vigorously once or twice a week is less effective than exercising a little every day consistently. Even small changes can create big results if practiced continuously. The harmony of exercise, nutrition, and sleep must also be considered. Appropriate nutrition before and after exercise maximizes exercise effects, and adequate sleep is essential for fatigue recovery and muscle regeneration from exercise. Finally, exercise affects not only physical health, but also greatly impacts mental health. Regular exercise increases confidence, relieves stress, and improves overall quality of life. These psychological effects create a virtuous cycle that positively affects physical health again. Improving cold hands and feet through exercise can expect both immediate and long-term effects. During and immediately after exercise, blood circulation is activated, making hands and feet warm, and long-term cardiovascular function improves and the autonomic nervous system achieves balance, allowing fundamental improvement. Chapter 8. Sleep and temperature regulation biorhythms. Sleep is not simply time to recover from fatigue. During sleep, our body's complex physiological processes are precisely coordinated, and especially systems related to temperature regulation are reorganized and optimized. To fundamentally solve cold hands and feet, understanding the close relationship between sleep and temperature regulation is essential. Human body temperature shows a regular pattern in 24-hour cycles. This is called circadian body temperature rhythm, generally showing peak around 6 to 8 p.m. and lowest around 4 to 6 a.m. This body temperature change is closely related to sleep-wake cycles. When body temperature starts to drop, sleepiness comes, and when body temperature rises, we become alert. Temperature regulation during sleep is achieved by very precise mechanisms. Before falling asleep, blood vessels in hands and feet dilate to release body heat, thereby lowering core body temperature. This is why hands and feet become warm before falling asleep. Conversely, people with cold hands and feet often have difficulty falling asleep because this heat release doesn't occur properly. Looking at the relationship between sleep stages and temperature regulation reveals more interesting facts. Sleep is largely divided into REM sleep and non-REM sleep, and temperature regulation methods differ for each stage. During non-REM sleep, especially deep sleep stages 3 to 4, body temperature drops the most. During this time, metabolism decreases to the lowest level, and growth hormone is secreted in large amounts, enabling tissue regeneration and recovery. Lowered body temperature is a physiological adaptation to save energy and optimize recovery processes. During REM sleep, brain activity becomes active, while temperature regulation ability temporarily deteriorates. During this time, adaptability to external temperature changes decreases, so maintaining appropriate sleep environment temperature is important. Melatonin is a key hormone connecting sleep and temperature regulation. Melatonin begins to be secreted from the brain's pineal gland when darkness is detected, lowering body temperature and inducing sleepiness. It also plays a role in promoting heat release by dilating peripheral blood vessels. However, modern people are often exposed to artificial lighting, especially blue light, late into the night, suppressing melatonin secretion. Sleep environment temperature is also very important. Generally, a cool environment of about 18 to 22 degrees Celsius helps good sleep. In too warm environments, it's difficult to fall into deep sleep, and in too cold environments, peripheral blood vessels contract, making heat release difficult. Bedroom humidity should ideally be maintained at about 50 to 60%. Sleep deprivation or poor sleep quality directly adversely affects the temperature regulation system. When sleep is insufficient, secretion of cortisol, a stress hormone, increases, while secretion of growth hormone and melatonin decreases. This hormonal imbalance disrupts the autonomic nervous system, causing vasoconstriction and peripheral blood flow reduction. Sleep deprivation also deteriorates immune function and increases inflammatory response. Chronic inflammation damages vascular endothelial cells and becomes a factor interfering with blood circulation. Adequate sleep is essential for suppressing inflammatory response and maintaining vascular health. During sleep, blood pressure naturally decreases. This is called nocturnal blood pressure dipping, where healthy people's blood pressure decreases about 10 to 20% at night. However, if there's stress or sleep disorders, this nocturnal blood pressure dipping doesn't occur properly, putting continuous burden on blood vessels. The secretion patterns of sleep-related hormones also affect temperature regulation. Growth hormone is mainly secreted during deep sleep, involved in tissue regeneration and metabolic regulation. Cortisol shows peak in early morning to prepare for awakening and shows lowest in evening to induce sleep. When normal secretion patterns of these hormones are disrupted, temperature regulation also has problems. A particularly noteworthy point in the relationship between sleep and cold hands and feet is the vicious cycle. difficulty falling asleep due to cold hands and feet, and cold hands and feet worsening again due to sleep deprivation can repeat. To break this vicious cycle, a comprehensive approach is needed. Methods to warm hands and feet before sleep also help. Soaking feet in warm water, massage, wearing sleep socks, etc. are effective. However, these methods are only temporary solutions. For fundamental improvement, overall sleep habits and lifestyle pattern improvement is needed. The effect of naps must also be considered. Appropriate naps of 20 to 30 minutes help fatigue recovery, but too long or late naps can interfere with night sleep. Especially naps after 3 p.m. should be avoided. Seasonal changes also affect sleep and temperature regulation. In winter, insufficient sunlight changes melatonin secretion patterns, potentially disrupting sleep rhythms. In such cases, getting sufficient sunlight in the morning or receiving light therapy can help. Ultimately, improving cold hands and feet through sleep is about restoring our body's natural rhythms. Rather than trying to match the fast pace and artificial environment of modern society, it's important to respect human natural physiological characteristics and create lifestyle patterns that match them. Chapter 9. The temperature of the mind determines the temperature of the body. Our use of expressions like warm heart and cold person is not simply metaphorical. Recent neuroscience and psychophysiology research scientifically proves that our emotional state and mental well-being directly affect temperature regulation and blood circulation. The temperature of the mind really determines the temperature of the body. To understand the relationship between emotions and body temperature, we first need to examine brain structure. The limbic system that processes emotions, especially the amygdala and hippocampus, is very closely connected to the hypothalamus that regulates the autonomic nervous system. This anatomical connection provides the structural foundation for emotional changes to immediately lead to physiological responses. In positive emotional states, the parasympathetic nervous system predominates, relaxing blood vessels and improving blood flow. Conversely, negative emotions, especially anxiety, depression, anger, and stress, activate the sympathetic nervous system, constricting blood vessels and reducing peripheral blood flow. This means not just temporary responses, but sustained emotional patterns can create chronic physiological changes. The relationship between depression and cold hands and feet is particularly noteworthy. High incidence of cold hands and feet in depression patients has been confirmed through various studies. Depression is characterized by imbalances in neurotransmitters like serotonin and noradrenaline, which also play important roles in vascular regulation. Depression also increases inflammatory response and continuously increases cortisol secretion, adversely affecting vascular health. Adding a slightly cynical perspective here, modern society constantly stimulates negative emotions. It encourages competition, fosters anxiety, demands perfection, yet lacks genuine concern for mental health. Then, when depression or anxiety disorders increase, it tries to solve them only with medication, which cannot be a fundamental solution. Anxiety disorders are also closely related to cold hands and feet. In anxious states, the sympathetic nervous system is overly activated, causing massive secretion of adrenaline and noradrenaline. These hormones immediately constrict peripheral blood vessels, making hands and feet cold. Chronic anxiety sustains this response, worsening cold hands and feet. Social isolation and loneliness also affect temperature regulation. Humans are essentially social animals, and connection and belonging with others also affect our physiological functions. People feeling loneliness tend to show increased inflammatory response, increased stress hormone secretion, and deteriorated immune function. All these changes negatively affect vascular health and blood circulation. Conversely, Positive emotions like love, gratitude, joy, and tranquility improve vascular health and promote blood circulation. When with loved ones, feeling grateful or laughing, we can actually feel our body becoming warm. This is not just a feeling, but actual physiological change. The effects of mindfulness and meditation are also being scientifically proven. Regular meditation practice suppresses amygdala overactivity and improves prefrontal cortex function, improving emotional regulation ability. It also activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowering blood pressure, relaxing blood vessels, and improving overall circulatory function. The healing effects of laughter are also noteworthy. Genuine laughter secretes mood-enhancing neurotransmitters like endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine. It simultaneously reduces stress hormones, improves immune function, and enhances vascular function. Laughter is truly the best medicine. The effects of music cannot be ignored either. When listening to favorite music, dopamine is secreted in our brain, and heart rate and blood pressure stabilize. Classical music or nature sounds especially have effects of stabilizing the autonomic nervous system. Creative activities also help mental and physical health. Activities like drawing, writing, cooking, gardening focus the mind, relieve stress, and provide sense of achievement. These activities naturally activate the parasympathetic nervous system, inducing body relaxation. Contact with nature is also important. Forest bathing, ocean viewing, park walks, etc. have effects of reducing stress hormones and stabilizing the autonomic nervous system. Nature's green color visually provides stability, and fresh air increases blood oxygen concentration, improving overall circulatory function. The importance of emotional expression must also be emphasized. Suppressing or ignoring emotions increases mental and physical tension. Expressing and releasing emotions in appropriate ways helps reduce stress and maintain autonomic nervous system balance. Gratitude practice is also an effective method. Writing down or mentally recalling things to be grateful for daily increases positive emotions, reduces stress, and improves overall well-being. Gratitude really warms the heart, which also leads to body warmth. The quality of human relationships is also an important factor. Deep conversations with true friends, warm time with family, volunteer activities in the community provide belonging and connection, improving mental health. Such social connections buffer stress, strengthen immune function, and improve overall health. Ultimately, raising the temperature of the mind is about comprehensively improving our quality of life. A happy and peaceful mind becomes the foundation of a healthy body, and a healthy body creates a happy mind again, forming a virtuous cycle. Chapter 10: The Three-Stage Healing Principles of Manipulation Therapy, from cold hands and feet to warm vitality. Now, through our long journey, we have deeply understood the root causes of cold hands and feet. From the philosophy of blood circulation to the connection between mind and body. Based on all this knowledge, it's time to explore practical solutions. This is the three-stage healing principle through manipulation therapy, a treasure of Oriental medicine. What is manipulation therapy? Literally translated, manipulation means alive, and therapy means method. In other words, it means methods to activate our body's vitality. This aims not simply to suppress or hide symptoms, but to awaken the natural healing power our body originally possesses. Adding a slightly cynical perspective here, modern medicine often focuses only on symptoms, missing root causes. When hands and feet are cold, they prescribe vasodilators, and when there's stress, they give anti-anxiety medication. But this is like turning off the fire alarm when it sounds. The fire is still burning. The three-stage healing principle of manipulation therapy goes beyond these limitations, aiming to restore our body's overall balance and harmony. Like a skilled orchestra conductor, harmoniously bringing out the sounds of each instrument, Manipulation therapy helps each system of our body cooperate to perform optimal functions. Stage 1. Overall circulation improvement and stress relief, reviving river flow. The first stage is like making blocked river flow smooth again. As we examined earlier, modern people's cold hands and feet mostly originate from overall blood circulation deterioration and chronic stress-induced sympathetic nervous system overactivation. The most important thing in this stage is spinal alignment. The spine is not simply a pillar supporting our body. The central nervous system passes inside the spine, and autonomic ganglia are arranged in rows on both sides of the spine. Especially cervical vertebrae 1 to 2 are directly connected to the brainstem, responsible for the supreme control center of the autonomic nervous system. In the first stage of manipulation therapy, spinal misalignment is corrected through gentle and precise hand techniques. This is not simply aligning bones. It releases tension in muscles, ligaments, and fascia around the spine, creating an environment where the autonomic nervous system can function properly. Relaxation of the diaphragm is particularly important. The diaphragm is a large muscle dividing our body upper and lower and is the main muscle of breathing. When stressed, the diaphragm becomes rigid. Breathing becomes shallow, creating a vicious cycle of further activating the sympathetic nervous system. Relaxing the diaphragm through manipulation therapy naturally enables deep breathing and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, relaxing the entire body. Through this process, patients can immediately feel body changes. Shoulder heaviness disappears, breathing deepens, and most importantly, blood flow to hands and feet improves, feeling warmth. This is not a simple temporary effect. As autonomic nervous system balance is restored, our body's natural circulation system begins to work again. Stage 2. 12 meridian normalization and organ function recovery, restoring life's main streams. The second stage is normalizing the 12 meridians, our body's energy circulation system. Meridians are pathways where QI and blood flow, like highways. But this is not just an analogy. Recent research shows meridians have actual close relationships with anatomical structures. Meridians remarkably coincide with pathways where fascia, blood vessels, lymph vessels, and nerves pass. Fascia in particular is connective tissue that wraps and connects our entire body, recently being re-illuminated for its importance. Fascia is not simply wrapping paper for muscles, but a complex organ that transmits mechanical signals, regulates inflammatory response, and even participates in immune function. Let's look at meridians, particularly important, related to cold hands and feet. First, the 3 yin meridians of the hand going to the hands. The hand Tai-yin lung meridian starts from the lungs and reaches the Tai-yuan point at the wrist. When this meridian is blocked, Qi and blood circulation to the upper extremities deteriorates. The hand Juayin pericardium meridian is related to the pericardium protecting the heart, particularly affected during emotional stress. The hand Shaoyin heart meridian is directly connected to heart function, so problems with this meridian are directly related to upper extremity coldness. The 3 yin meridians of the foot are equally important. The foot Tai-yin spleen meridian is related to the digestive system, often problematic due to modern people's irregular eating habits and stress. The foot Juyin liver meridian is responsible for the liver's dispersing function, meaning qi and blood communication. When this meridian is blocked, overall circulation deteriorates. The foot Shaoyin kidney meridian is related to kidney source qi, directly related to lower body warmth. In the second stage of manipulation therapy, these meridians are checked and normalized one by one. This is not simply pressing acupoints. It's a delicate process of gently relaxing along meridian flow, opening blocked areas, and balancing the whole. For example, with the hand Tai-yin lung meridian, the entire pathway from Zhongfu to Taiyuan is relaxed along the meridian, making qi and blood flow smooth. In this process, patients can feel warm energy flowing along the arm. this is not a simple illusion, but an actual physiological phenomenon of improved blood flow and activated nerve transmission. Also, in this stage, each organ's function is recovered together. The 5 Zhang and 6 Fu organs in Oriental medicine don't simply mean anatomical organs. Each represents functional units, including specific physiological and mental functions. For example, heart includes not only the heart, but also brain's cognitive function and emotional regulation function. And kidney encompasses not only kidneys, but also endocrine system and reproductive function. Stage 3. 8 extraordinary vessels. Normalization and complete health recovery. Awakening life's source. The third and final stage is normalizing the 8 extraordinary vessels. The 8 extraordinary vessels are systems that regulate our body's energy at a deeper level than the 12 meridians. If 12 meridians are city roads, the 8 extraordinary vessels are like the entire city's power grid. Particularly important are the governing vessel and conception vessel. The governing vessel is the sea of yang qi going up along the spine, and the conception vessel is the sea of yin qi going down along the abdominal midline. These 2 meridians regulate the balance of our body's front and back, yin and yang, ascending and descending. Most modern people don't have smooth communication between governing and conception vessels. Prolonged sitting life collapses the spine's natural curves, and stress hardens the chest and abdomen. This interferes with governing and conception vessel flow, impeding overall energy circulation. In the third stage of manipulation therapy, these 8 extraordinary vessels are activated one by one. This is a very delicate process, requiring high skill. The therapist detects minute energy changes in the patient while opening blocked meridians through appropriate stimulation. The penetrating vessel is called the sea of blood, fundamentally regulating overall blood circulation. When this meridian is activated, the root cause of cold hands and feet, peripheral blood circulation deterioration, is completely resolved. The belt vessel is a meridian crossing the body like a belt, regulating upper and lower QI and blood communication. When this meridian is normalized, upper body heat descends to the lower body, and the lower body's cold energy is neutralized. The yin and yang heel vessels regulate left-right balance, and the yin and yang linking vessels regulate inner-outer balance. When all these meridians work harmoniously, our body finally reaches complete balance. When this stage is completed, patients experience not simply improved cold hands and feet, but overall health improvement. Immunity is strengthened, sleep quality improves, and mental stability increases. This is the state where our body's natural healing power is fully activated. Philosophical meaning of manipulation. Therapy. Treatment. The 3-stage treatment principle of manipulation therapy contains deep philosophical meaning beyond simple technical methodology. This is a perspective viewing our body not as a machine, but as a living organism. When machine parts break, they can be replaced or repaired. But living beings are different. Living beings have self-regulating ability and heal themselves when appropriate conditions are created. Manipulation therapy is exactly the method to awaken this natural healing power. Rather than artificially adding something from outside, it restores our body's original sense of balance and healing ability. This is like a skilled gardener, helping plants grow by themselves by providing water, sunlight, and appropriate soil. Conclusion. Warm hope, found at Cold's End. Through this long journey, we have explored together the enormous story hidden within the small symptom of cold hands and feet. Beyond simply having cold hands and feet, we were able to deeply understand how intricately our body and mind are connected, and how our modern lives affect all these systems. Starting from the philosophy of blood circulation, through the mysteries of the autonomic nervous system, the concerto of hormones, challenges of modern life, effects of stress and emotions, healing power of food, physiology of exercise, importance of sleep, and the connection between mind and body, we realized how integrated and holistic the concept of health is. The most important realization is that we must listen to the signals our body sends rather than ignoring them. Cold hands and feet are not simply uncomfortable symptoms, but precious messages our entire body sends. When we properly understand these messages and respond appropriately, we can live healthier and more balanced lives. Even in the fast pace and complexity of modern society, we can restore humanity's natural rhythms. Through appropriate exercise and nutrition, sufficient rest and sleep, stress management, and mental well-being, we can activate our body's natural healing power. The most beautiful thing is that this improvement process doesn't simply solve cold hands and feet, but improves our overall quality of life. Healthy blood circulation, balanced autonomic nervous system, harmonious hormone secretion, deep sleep, and stable emotional state are all connected, creating a virtuous cycle where improvement in one area leads to improvement in other areas. We also realize the power of small changes. Small and seemingly simple practices like a warm ginger tea in the morning, 10 minutes of stretching daily, deep conscious breathing, and a grateful heart can gather to create big changes. The most important thing to remember at the end of this journey is that healthy living is not about reaching a perfect state, but a continuous process of finding balance. Sometimes hands and feet may be cold, we may be stressed, and we may make imperfect choices. However, accepting all these while steadily caring for and improving ourselves is the true meaning of health. Scripture says, "For everything there is a season." Just as we need cold winter to appreciate warm spring's preciousness, our body's small discomforts may be precious signals for greater health and happiness. Taking good care of and being grateful for this amazing body and mind God gave us would be the proper response to the blessings we've received. I sincerely hope that this small concern starting from your fingertips and toes brings warm changes to your entire life. Supporting your healthy and happy appearance. I hope this audiobook has been a small help for your healthy life. Thank you for staying with us until the end. I will continue to create beneficial content for your health and happiness. If this audiobook was helpful, please share it with precious people around you and support us with channel subscriptions and good comments. Thank you.